The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my old Volvo working overtime. I'm Quentin, 46, a landscape architect in Seattle. I loved my job. Designing gardens and outdoor spaces was my passion. It was a creative outlet that balanced the more mundane aspects of life. Or so I thought. My wife, Beatrice, was a real estate agent, successful, driven, and always impeccably dressed. We'd been married for 15 years, and honestly, things had been comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. We'd fallen into a routine: work, dinner, TV, bed. The spark had dimmed, but I figured that was just part of being together for so long. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed Beatrice's BMW wasn't there. Late showing, I muttered to myself. I unlocked the front door, the familiar scent of potpourri hitting me as I stepped inside. "Beatrice," I called out, even though I knew she wasn't home. Silence. Just the rhythmic drumming of the rain against the windows. I went into the kitchen, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and checked my emails. Nothing important. As I scrolled through my phone, a notification popped up, a text message from an unknown number. Curiosity piqued. I opened it. It was a picture of Beatrice, and not just any picture. It was a photo of her kissing a man I didn't recognize. They were sitting at a bar, laughing, her hand resting on his arm. The caption read, "Having a great time with Beatrice tonight." The beer slipped from my grasp, shattering on the tiled floor. My heart hammered against my ribs. Disbelief, confusion, and a white-hot rage washed over me in waves. I stared at the picture, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of sick joke. I tried calling Beatrice, but her phone went straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Beatrice. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." Her voice, usually so soothing, now sounded like a taunt. I paced the living room, my mind racing. Who was this man? How long had this been going on? Why? What had I done wrong? I replayed our last few months together in my head, searching for clues, for signs I'd missed. Had she been distant, less affectionate? I couldn't tell. I'd been so wrapped up in my own world, so complacent, that I hadn't noticed anything was amiss. Finally, hours later, I heard the familiar hum of Beatrice's car pulling into the driveway. I stood by the window, watching her get out. She looked happy, too happy. As she walked towards the house, I steeled myself. I needed answers. She opened the door, a bright smile on her face. "Quentin, you're home early. Who's the man in the picture, Beatrice?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Her smile faltered. Her eyes widened slightly. "What picture?" I held out my phone, the image of her kissing the stranger still displayed on the screen. She stared at it for a long moment, her face paling. I can explain," she stammered. "Explain what?" "Explain how you're kissing another man. Explain how you're betraying me after 15 years of marriage." "It's not what you think," she said, her voice trembling. "It just happened. It was a mistake. A mistake. A mistake you just happened to repeat multiple times, judging by the time stamp on that photo." She started to cry. "His name is Lysander. He's a client. I've been helping him find a property." "So you help him find a property by making out with him at a bar? Is that how real estate works these days?" "It's more complicated than that," she pleaded. He's been very supportive. I've been feeling so unappreciated lately. You're always working, Quentin. You never pay attention to me anymore, so instead of talking to me, you decided to cheat on me. That's your solution." "I know it was wrong," she sobbed. "But I was lonely. I needed someone to make me feel alive again." Her words were like a punch to the gut. I felt sick, betrayed, and utterly heartbroken. "Get out," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "What?" she asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Get out of my house, Beatrice. I can't even look at you right now." She didn't argue. She grabbed her purse and keys and walked out the door, leaving me standing there, alone in the rain-soaked house we had built together. The next few weeks were a blur. I barely ate, barely slept. I went through the motions at work, but my heart wasn't in it. I couldn't stop replaying the image of Beatrice kissing Lysander in my head. It was like a brand seared into my brain. I hired a lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Gwendolyn. She advised me to gather evidence, to document everything. "You need to protect yourself, Quentin," she said. "These things can get messy." So I started digging. I checked our bank statements, our credit card bills, and what I found made my blood run cold. Beatrice had been transferring large sums of money to a separate account, an account I didn't know existed. And she'd been using that account to pay for things: expensive dinners, weekend getaways, jewelry, All for her and Lysander, no doubt. I confronted her about it during one of our lawyer-mediated meetings. "What is this, Beatrice? Are you planning to run off with him?" She denied it at first, but Gwendoline presented the evidence, the bank statements, the receipts. Beatrice had no choice but to admit it. "I was going to tell you," she said, her voice barely audible. I needed to be sure. That he was serious about me, serious about you. You were stealing from me to fund your affair. How could you do that?" The divorce proceedings were long and bitter. Beatrice fought me every step of the way, demanding alimony, claiming I was emotionally abusive. But Gwendoline was relentless. She exposed Beatrice's lies, her financial manipulations, her affair. In the end, Beatrice got nothing. She was left with nothing but her shame and her new lover. But that wasn't the end of the story. A few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a phone call from a detective. His name was Rufus, and he had been looking into Lysander's business dealings. "Mr. Quentin," he said, "I have some information that might interest you. It seems your ex-wife's lover is not who he claims to be." Rufus explained that Lysander was a con artist, a serial cheater who preyed on vulnerable women. He would seduce them, drain their bank accounts, and then move on to the next victim. "He's done this before, Mr. Quentin," Rufus said. "He's a professional." I was stunned. Beatrice had been so blinded by her desire for attention, for validation, that she had fallen for a con man. She had risked everything for a lie. I decided to confront her one last time. I found her at a bar, the same bar where she had been photographed kissing Lysander. She was alone, nursing a drink. "Beatrice," I said, sitting down next to her. "I know about Lysander." She looked up, her eyes red and puffy. "What do you mean?" "I know he's a con artist. I know he's been using you." She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then tears started streaming down her face. "I know," she sobbed. "He left me. He took everything." I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but it was quickly replaced by anger. She had brought this on herself. She had betrayed me, lied to me, and stolen from me. She deserved everything that was happening to her. I stood up and walked away, leaving her alone with her misery. As I drove home, I felt a sense of closure. The pain was still there, but it was fading. I had survived. I had rebuilt my life. And I had learned a valuable lesson: never take anything for granted and always pay attention to the signs. Life after Beatrice wasn't easy, but it was mine. I focused on my work, my friends, and my hobbies. I started dating again, cautiously, tentatively. And eventually, I found someone who truly appreciated me for who I was. Looking back, I realized that Beatrice's affair had been a catalyst for change. It had forced me to reevaluate my life, to prioritize my own happiness. And in the end, it had made me a stronger, more resilient person.